we take it as a passing, you know. Okay? Yeah. So, Honorable Yomons, please.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I think what I said, and the LP should listen, I said there are arrests being made and are being processed in accordance with the law so that the suspects appear in court. That's what I said. Secondly, I said the government of Uganda does not abduct. But if your dear one goes missing, there is a law which guides you on how you can report police, and the police can assist you to look for that person. I am alive to the law in this country as a member of parliament. So
10 years ago, it all began with one trade. Discipline became my edge. And today, I trade with confidence and consistency. 10 years of helping traders grow. FTMO.
Is your phone failing to upgrade to Airtel VoLTE? Follow the steps below to update your phone software and enjoy uninterrupted streaming and high-definition calls. For Android users, open Settings, scroll.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to comment about the budget timelines. But before I do that, let me also take this opportunity to congratulate you upon your victory in Mitoma. Yes, and to congratulate, and I want to congratulate all the colleagues who were able to make it back to this house. And more so, I want to congratulate His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM party for the massive victory. Mr. Speaker, on the budget timelines, Mr. Speaker, can I be protected from my brother Vasariwa, Honorable?
Please, Honorable Musasa, please. Colleagues, order.
Mr. Speaker, on the budget timelines, the law is very clear. By 1st of February, we pass the budget framework paper, which I want to believe by close of business today, we shall have passed it. By 15th of February, we are required to have issued the second budget called Circular, which we shall issue. It is subsequent to the National Budget Framework paper. By 15th of March, the ministerial policy statements are supposed to be laid in this house. By 1st of April, we are required to lay the estimates of expenditure and revenue, which is the budget. So that is the budget accompanied by the tax bills and all other compliance requirements in accordance with the law. Mr. Speaker, as far as I am concerned, any earliest opportunity past 1st of April is very good news for me. So I want to play. We will give the necessary support in terms of information, and we expect, Mr. Speaker, that at an earliest opportunity, after 1st of April, we pass this budget, because we are cognizant of the fact that this parliament is about to come to an end. We are cognizant of the fact that the current government 2021-2026 is about to come to an end, and we want to close having completed most of these things where the law requires us to do before the new parliament comes. Therefore, what do I commit? I commit that I will provide timely information, especially after 1st of April, such that by end of April, we have passed the budget and we are good to get ready for the next parliament. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Enos, I had allowed you earlier. Is it related to budget? If it's out, if it's on the other comments, I don't want to reopen.
No, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for the opportunity, but it has passed.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Item 3 on the other paper, laying of papers. 1. Petroleum Fund Annual Report, financial ended 30th June 2025.
Honorable Minister for Finance.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the Petroleum Fund Annual Report for financial year ended 30th June 2025. I beg to lay, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, when I was preparing, I cross-checked if I follow Rule 179, which implements Section 17 of the PFMA, then I would be referring this report to the Budget Committee. But then the report has issues which are beyond expenditure. There are issues of a policy nature and all that. So I want to use my authority to refer it to the Committee on Finance, not to the Committee on Budget, so that it can be extensively looked into beyond budget issues, and also so that the issues raised can be followed up by the Sectoral Committee of Finance, since it's a supervisory committee. And also, Clerk, this issue, the Rules Committee should look at it. Rule 179, in line with
Are you looking for a dream house? Or do you want to buy, sell, or rent property? Well, we can help. We can help you save money and time. All you have to do is visit www.20fast.re.
On table, the annual performance report for Education Service Commission, financial year ended 2025. I beg to lay.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The report is referred to the Committee on Education and Sports.
Item 3.3, agreement between the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Government of the Republic of Uganda on the reciprocal abolition of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic, official, service, and special passports.
Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister for Finance can lay the report. The agreement, sorry.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on the table the agreement between the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Government of the Republic of Uganda on the reciprocal abolition of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic, official, service, and special passports. I beg to lay.
Thank you, Honourable colleagues. You should interest yourselves in this. Now you can go to Egypt, visa-free. But Honourable Ministers, you go back to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, tell them we negotiate for all passport holders. This is Africa. We are traveling in Africa. Exempting us while we don't help those who are doing business and bringing money to this economy is not helpful. So this is for information purposes. Let it be deposited in the library so that it can be accessed by members.
Annual report of the Auditor General to Parliament for the audit year ended 31st December 2025.
Commissioner.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the annual report of the Auditor General to Parliament for the audit year ended 31st December 2025. I beg to lay.
Thank you. The report is referred to the Committee on Public Accounts, Central, for processing.
Annual performance report of the Auditor General 2025.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on table the annual performance report of the Office of the Auditor General for the year ended December 2025. I beg to lay.
Thank you. It's referred to the relevant committees because we have several accountability committees which should be processing it from PAC, COSASE, and all that. Thank you. Next item.
Item 4 on the other paper, motion for adoption of the National Budget Framework Paper for financial year 2026-27 to financial year 2030-31.
Honourable Minister for Finance.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, pursuant to Article 1552 of the Constitution and Section 810 of the Public Finance Management Act and Rule 145 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I beg to move a motion for adoption of the National Budget Framework Paper for financial year 2026-2027. I beg to move.
The motion seconded. By Prime Minister, Minister for Veteran Affairs, Minister for Agriculture, Animal Industry, Minister for Internal Affairs, Minister for Royal Triangle, Chair of Finance Committee, Chair of Budget, Honorable Mara, Honorable Masaba, Honorable Kamara, Honorable colleagues, majority of the members of the House. Thank you. Honorable Minister, you want to briefly speak to your motion?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the theme under the National Budget Framework Paper for this financial year is full monetization of Ugandan economy through commercial agriculture industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. Mr. Speaker, we have, Right Honourable Speaker, this financial year, 2026-2027, is the second year of implementing the National Development Plan 4, and this is the first plan to deliver the tenfold growth strategy of expanding the size of the economy to a GDP of $500 billion by 2040, and it is the first fiscal year of implementation of the NRM Manifesto 2026-2031, and the first fiscal year of implementation of the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility for financial year 2026-2027 to 2030-2031. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the budget framework paper has been prepared consistent with the NDP4 priorities which were approved by this House and the NRM Manifesto 2026-2031. Mr. Speaker, briefly, I wish to state that the economy is projected to grow between 6.5 and 7%. For the year ending December 2025, actually the year ended December 2025, The economic activity, as per the perceptions of doing business in Uganda, continued to strengthen. Inflation stood at 3.1%, below the policy target of 5%. The exchange rate remained stable and strong against major currencies, such as the US dollar. And at the end of November 2025, exports of goods reached US dollars 12.79 billion, with Uganda registering a balance of payments surplus of US dollars 2.37 billion, from a deficit of US dollars 683 million the previous year. The foreign direct investment increased to US dollars 3.5 billion for the year ending October 2025, while portfolio inflows stood at US dollars 1.7 billion.
Elevate your career with the London School of Business and Finance. We offer a global MBA with 5 specializations, a Master's in Finance and Investment, and a Master of Science Strategic Marketing. LSBF is a trusted institution
billion in financial year 2020-2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next financial years, Uganda's economy is expected to grow by 10.4%. The GDP is expected to increase to Uganda shillings 290.2 trillion, an equivalent of US dollars 76.7 billion. From Uganda shillings 251.450 trillion, which is equivalent to US dollars 68 billion this financial year. This double-digit growth will be supported by 1, commencement of commercial production of oil and gas, 2, strategic government initiatives including PDM, EMYOGA, and infrastructure investments, 3, increasing foreign direct investment, especially in extractive industries, agro-processing, peace and security and political stability, continued strong growth in exports, and a stable macroeconomic environment, favorable to private sector growth and profitability. Right Honorable Speaker, the preliminary resource envelope for financial year 2026-2027 amounts to Uganda shillings 69.399 trillion. This comprises domestic resources, both tax and non-tax revenue, grants and borrowing. Mr. Speaker, briefly the key investment priorities for financial year 2026-2027 include 1, maintaining peace, security and rule of law, 2, human capital development, including provision of health care, delivery of free universal education, water for human consumption and production, and social protection. 3, monetization of the economy through wealth creation initiatives that contribute to lowering the cost of money like PDM, EMYOGA, UDB, UDC, among others. 4, infrastructure development. Here our focus is the railway, standard gauge railway, the meter gauge, road maintenance, both paved and unpaved, affordable electricity, water, and ICT. 5, strengthening regional integration to guarantee market access. 6, irrigation to stabilize agriculture. 7, industrial parks for manufacturing, including agro-processing. 8, eliminating corruption. 9, environmental conservation and protection of wetlands, forests, etc. And 10, vertical and horizontal integration of the economy. Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank this Parliament and the committees which have considered this budget framework paper, and I wish to submit that Parliament, that we are ready to take up all the comments, welcome all the comments, and we commit that we shall consider them at the next stage of this process, especially at the second budget framework paper, especially at the issuance of the second budget call circular. I move, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that brief. Chair of the committee, please present the report. In 30 minutes will be enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. The report of the Committee on Budget on the National Budget Framework Paper for the financial year 2026-2027. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, before I proceed to read the report, I beg to lay the minutes of the committee in processing this budget framework paper on table. Mr. Speaker, also accompanying this report is a minority report prepared by the Honorable Semunju Ibrahim, Member of Parliament for Kira Municipality. Accompanying this report also are annexes that I will also lay on the table. And the report, copy of the report. Mr. Speaker, since you have given me 30 minutes, I'll take the discretion to be brief in certain areas, but highlight some of the important aspects of this budget framework paper. For the financial year 2026-2027 to 2030-2031 was presented to Parliament on the 6th of December 2025 by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Right Honorable Speaker, you subsequently referred the budget framework paper to the attendant documents to the Committee of Budget and the respective sector committees of Parliament for consideration. In accordance with Section 89 of the Public Finance Management Act, therefore, and Rule 152 of our Rules of Procedure, the Committee on Budget, in consultation with the sector committees of Parliament, scrutinized the budget framework paper and now therefore presents its findings for consideration and approval by this August House as required by Section 810 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 171, and Rule 153 of the Parliamentary Rules of Procedure, Mr. Speaker. On that page 4, the methodology and the documents that the committee used and took consideration in processing these documents are there. The stakeholders consulted, largely Ministry of Finance, the Planning Authority, and the relevant MDAs. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, this budget framework paper report is divided into two parts. Part 1 considers the legal compliance of the budget framework paper, the economic and budget performance, preliminary resource and expenditure framework for the financial year 2026-27, and the strategic policy direction for this budget framework paper. And part 2 is a report on the sectoral committee vote by vote, considering the observations and recommendations of both sector committees, as well as the committees and comments and harmonization by the Committee of Budget. Part 2, legal compliance. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the committee undertook an assessment of the compliance of the budget framework paper against a number of legal provisions, as highlighted below. Compliance with Section 83 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 171. The Section 83 requires the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to prepare a budget that is consistent with the National Development Plan 4 and the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. The committee observations are that the strategic policy direction of the budget framework paper is consistent. This BFP is consistent with the NDP4 strategic direction. The budget framework paper strategic policy direction is focused on 4 priority growth drivers. That's agro-industrialization, tourism, mineral-based industrialization development, science, technology, and innovation. 2, the BFP's economic growth projections, as mentioned by the minister here, is projected to be 10.4%, therefore going forward. 3, the BFP program budget allocations are as highlighted, but fall far below the corresponding NDP4 budget allocations, with notable shortfalls in the key areas of agro-industrialization, human capital development, governance and security, energy and innovation. While private sector development, sustainable urbanization and housing, regional balance development and administration of justice have indicative allocations above the NDP4 targets, most of those items have fallen short in terms of the allocations indicated in NDP4. In addition, the program expenditure prioritization or budget allocative efficiency of the budget framework paper is not fully consistent with the NDP4. The NDP4 envisaged higher budget allocation ratios for the agro-industrialization program, human capital development, and development plan implementation programs, respectively. And as highlighted in Table 1, the consistency of the budget framework paper with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is currently not possible because the current Charter of Fiscal Responsibility expires in June 2026. We therefore wait for the new charter from Parliament, hopefully to be presented into Parliament not later than 3 months after its first sitting of the next Parliament. It is important to note that the government has encountered consistent challenges in meeting the fiscal rules or benchmarks it has been setting in the past charters. We implore government, therefore, that for the fiscal deficit to GDP that they are going to set in the coming budget be consistent with the projections in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. Our committee recommends, therefore, that enhanced revenue mobilization efforts to effectively implement the NDP4 interventions and ensure allocative efficiency, consistency of the budget framework paper and the NDP4. Finance Management Act. Section 4 requires the Minister of Finance and Plan Economic Development to prepare a budget framework paper in a format as prescribed in Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, the committee observations on this matter is that the BFP largely conforms the requirements of Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act. However, the alternate fiscal framework on the fiscal risks is not provided. And this has been a perennial problem on the floor of Parliament over the last few years. The flow of government investment in the financial year is not provided either. The rate of employment and unemployment for the financial year 26-27 and the medium term is also not provided. In addition, it is important to note that the aforementioned BFP information has consistently not been provided in the past to Parliament. The committee recommends that the BFP should be amended to include all the requirements as per Schedule 3. Compliance with Section 85 of the Public Finance Management Act.
Procedure.
Mr. Speaker, the minister who has moved the motion asking Parliament to approve it has for the last 15 minutes been involved in a deep discussion with the lead of government business. yet the matters being raised in the report will need his response. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? Is he procedure right to move Parliament to consider a very serious matter? And as Parliament is processing, is in a deep discussion, laughing widely with the Prime Minister. Is he procedure right to do that, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you. Now, this worries me because the Minister for Finance is busy concentrating somewhere with the Prime Minister. Listen, the Shadow Minister for Finance is also busy concentrating on the Minister of Finance and what he's doing. None of them is focusing on what is on the floor. So now, the two of you, I request you we concentrate on what's going on the floor. Honorable Semuju, stop concentrating on Honorable Msasizi. Honorable Msasizi, stop concentrating on the Prime Minister. Please, Honorable Chair.
I think you're right, Mr. Speaker. The issues raised here about the consistency and provision of important information, which I thought the Honorable Minister of Finance should give an here. 2.3, compliance with Section 85 of the Public Finance Management Act. This section requires the Minister to prepare a budget framework paper with the approval of Cabinet and submit it to Parliament by the 31st of December of the financial year preceding the financial year to which the budget framework paper relates. This requirement was fulfilled. This was within its stipulated time. 2.4, compliance with Section 86 of the PMFA, Cap 171.
Honorable, will you use 30 minutes if you proceed like this? Because these are areas of compliance which are very, very clearly defined. I think let's go to the critical issues of money.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. In that spirit, on the economic and budget for performance, I think the Honorable Minister referred to that. On inflation and exchange rate, he touched on that matter. Also on the financial sector developments, I only want to note that the average on the non-performing loans, the average ratio of non-performing loans to total gross loans declined to 3.86% in June 2025 from 4.95% in June 2024. And this is a good indicator for the economy. The decline was particularly evident in sectors benefiting from recovery in trade, manufacturing, construction, and agriculture. This decline in NPL trend signals a healthier and more resilient banking sector and capable of extending more credit to support private sector-led growth. This is a very positive development, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. On the external sector developments, I just want to comment that our export earnings for goods and services grew significantly by 31.6%, increasing from $10.025 billion to a record of $13.19 billion. This strong performance was largely attributed to high export of coffee and gold, as international prices of gold and coffee increased significantly. And this has actually given us a surplus and a good 3.8-month cover for the first time. This is very good for. So our overall balance of payments, the country has recorded an overall balance of payments surplus of 1.029 billion. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, a positive balance of payment signals that Uganda is earning more foreign exchange than it is spending, which supports current stability and enhances the country's global financial standing. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, on our public debt, including Bank of Uganda outstanding debt of 1.8 trillion and excluding domestic arrears, rose by 14.86% to 118 trillion. That's about $32.9 billion by end of financial year 24-25. This is up from 103.0 trillion in the financial year 23-24, raising the debt to GDP ratio from 50.5% to 51.8%. So our debt sustainability strategy needs to be taken into consideration in this. On domestic carriers, in the last, in the current budget, 1.4 billion was, 1,400 billion was allocated in the financial year 25-26. And in the coming financial year, it is proposed that we are going to revert to 200 billion annually in 26-27. The committee observations, recommendations are outlined there, but briefly to reiterate the fact that we need to drain on our debt, and hopefully with the coming on oil in the 31st July, hopefully this year, the economy will be healthier and stronger going forward. Yeah. On the fiscal and budget performance, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that has been extensively considered by committees, and our recommendation is that there is need for sustained oversight on project readiness, procurement timelines, and contractual performance to avoid incomplete or idle infrastructure. Government should prioritize resources for operationalizing already constructed facilities before approving new capital projects. Counterpart funding has been a problem across board and in many MDAs. And I think this is becoming a serious problem, which is attracting a lot of interest payments for unspent monies, loans. Government should ensure that there is a continuous collaboration between project-affected persons, representatives, government officials, and local leaders to identify gaps and resolve delays in compensation of ongoing projects. In addition, government should prioritize allocation of funding for payment of right of way. And this has been a major problem. On preliminary resource and expenditure framework, the resource envelope, the minister has referred to it. I don't have to go there. But what is worth noting is that the decline in both domestic and external borrowing suggests a decline effort to contain debt accumulation in line with the fiscal consolidation agenda. A declining trend in domestic borrowing over the medium term reflects government's intention to reduce crowding out of the private sector, curb the rising debt to GDP ratio, and address the growing burden of interest payments to revenues. Our recommendation is that government should strengthen the resolve on concessional borrowing and not domestic borrowing over the medium term. This would bring down the cost of debt service and improve the fiscal space for increased service delivery in the country. The expenditure allocation for 26-27 for domestic areas should be at least 450 billion, which is consistent with the domestic areas strategy and the PDM-MF 2023 strategy. On expenditure, Mr. Speaker, that the minister has highlighted the key areas for implementation. That's the ATMIs. I would want to go to the many areas, the priority areas that are mentioned is the ATMIs. Let me go to the committee observation recommendations on strategic policy directions. On agro-industrialization, the committee observes that Uganda's agriculture is standing on the shoulders of smallholder farmers.
Honorable, you can just give this small synopsis, no, on page 22 before going there. Okay. On resource envelope.
Yes. Our resource envelope for 26-27 is 69.399 trillion, but only 22.47 trillion, representing 32.4%, is for discretionary expenditure. And a balance of 46.92 trillion is non-discretionary expenditure or mandatory expenditure. And colleagues, if you note on that table under column 26-27, domestic revenues is 40 trillion, 90 billion. That's 40,090.43 billion. That is from tax revenue. We are going to get 36,806.27 billion. Billion. Non-tax revenue is 10
10 years ago, it all began with one trade. Discipline became my edge. And today, I trade with confidence and consistency. 10 years of helping traders grow. FTMO.
Borrowing. We don't expect any grants, and in total resource envelope is 69,399.95 billion Uganda shillings. Less our wage bill, which is 8,582.93 billion. Less external repayments, amortization of 4,833.16 billion. Less project support of 10,018.45 billion. That's the external financing. Less domestic refinancing of 9,678.55 billion. Less domestic arrears, which is budgeted for 200 billion. Less appropriation in aid, that's the money we return to local governments, of 328.67 billion. Less interest payments, which are mandatory, of 12,734.64 billion. And less domestic debt repayments of 547 billion. So the discretionary envelope available to us is 22,476.56 billion. And that's what we can spend on our subsector, on our discretionarily. Mr. Speaker, I beg to proceed so that I can go to part 2. On 5.4, on the strategic direction of this budget. On agro-industrialization, committee recommends that further strengthening harvest and post-harvest handling, enhancing production and competitiveness of agricultural products for domestic, regional, and external markets, strengthening specialized extension services, strengthening the adoption and integration of STI in agriculture, strengthening farmer field schools and cooperatives, de-risking agro-industry, eliminating counterfeits and low-quality agro inputs, and strengthening coordination, legal, and institutional framework for agriculture would go a long way in helping to further deepen growth in this sector. There are observations on the extractive industry. Mr. Members, I beg you that you read them. There are also on tourism development, science, technology, but let me more specifically on the specific on part 2. So Speaker, I beg to move to page 40 and on some highlights on voter observations and recommendations. On the Committee on Foreign Affairs, vote 006, Minister of Foreign Affairs. The committee notes that failure to, there are actually a challenge with paying. The committee is gravely concerned about Uganda's persistent failure to fulfill its financial obligations to organizations as listed above. As of December 2025, Uganda's arrears stood at 90.231 billion, and no funds have been allocated for clearing the arrears for the 8 organizations, that is Commonwealth Foundation, United Nations Secretariat, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, Africa Union, IGAD, World Food Program, UN Peacekeeping and Tribunals. And additionally, no funds have been allocated for annual assessment contributions totaling to 25.54 billion. The committee notes that failure to pay subscriptions to international organizations adversely affects Uganda's international standing, undermining Uganda's voting rights and full participation in meetings, and limits employment opportunities for Ugandans within the intermediate international organizations. Our recommendation, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs be allocated additional funding of 90.231 billion to clear the outstanding arrears, and the 25.54 billion for payment of Uganda's annual assessment contribution obligations to international organizations. On the enhanced pension and gratuity for the retiring officers in the ministry, the committee recommends that the ministry be provided additional funding of 2.1 billion and 200 million for enhanced gratuity and pension payments for its staff to avoid accumulation of arrears and delayed payments of terminal benefits for retiring officers. On vote 501, missions abroad, generally we recommend that Government should provide additional funding of 1.2 billion to the missions in New Delhi and 200 million to the mission in Kuala Lumpur to facilitate the repatriation of trafficked Ugandans in their respective countries of accreditation. Missions in countries with a higher number of Ugandan migrant workers, such as Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, should each be allocated an additional support to distressed Ugandans. This funding could be availed to them every financial year. This is a recurrent issue. Additional funding for consulates in Arusha. The committee recommends that the mission in Dar es Salaam be allocated an additional 710 million in the financial year 26 as subvention. Funding for maintaining operations, the mission in Kinshasa, the mission in Kinshasa is we pray that the mission in Kinshasa be allocated 672 million for the rental of temporary offices with adequate space to accommodate all staff in one location, since our embassy was burnt down during the riots. On Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development, vote 124, Equal Opportunities Commission. The renovation of the dilapidated Equal Opportunities Headquarters. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance provides funds of 1 billion to enable the committee renovate the building at Bugolobi, as this would enable the staff to relocate from the expensive rental offices at Kingdom Kampala and save money which would be used for other critical activities. Right now they spend up to a tune of 4 billion in rent in the Kingdom House. Committee on East African Community Affairs, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, vote 021, Minister of East African Community Affairs. They have a wage gap. The committee recommends that a wage gap of 165 million be provided to the budget for the ministry. Participation in regional and international agreements. The committee noted that the Minister of East African Community Affairs is required to participate on a number of occasions in different negotiations, but has failed to participate in key regional meetings due to lack of funding. Attending of regional meetings, participation in bilateral engagements, trade negotiations is a key part of their mandate. The committee noted that MECA requires 3.6 billion, which has not been availed. So the committee recommends that Minister of Finance provides 1.8 billion for the participation of MECA officials in regional and international engagements, which are critical to our integration process. On visibility and communication of MECA, the committee recommends that the ministry be provided 1.2 billion to create awareness on the importance of EAC integration. There are recommendations retooling. On the Committee on Finance, Plan and Economic Development, vote 108, National Planning Authority. There is a local government development plans. The committee recommends that the Minister of Finance reinstates NPA's full 5.4 billion non-wage allocation under the Sustainable Urbanization and Housing Program. This will ensure that local government development plans are developed to avert delays in infrastructure coordination and compliance with the Fiscal Planning Act. Vote 141, Uganda Revenue Authority, Domestic Revenue Mobilization Initiatives. The committee recommends that URA needs 40.78 billion in order to undertake the above domestic revenue mobilization, and this resource could be provided so that they can achieve the targets that they are expecting to bring in. On vote 131, Office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General noted that their scope of audit has expanded, and the committee noted that over time the scope of audits have expanded due to the growing number of administrative units, emerging areas such as PDM, oil, gas expenditure, and increasing demand for public works audits, value for money audits, special audits, and forensic investigations. The Auditor General is unable to cope with the expanded scope due to limited budgetary allocations, resulting into backlogs. In addition, the adoption of the thematic reporting and ISSAI-140 as the I-10, the need for additional resources. The committee recommends that Uganda shillings 12.053 billion be provided to the OAG to enable it to execute its expanded mandate. Inadequate staff numbers. The committee was informed that the Office of the Auditor General employs 605 staff out of the required 1,890. The limited staff numbers has impaired the office's ability to fully execute its mandate. The committee recommends that Uganda shillings 10 billion be provided to reduce on the staffing gaps in the institution in order for them to execute their mandate. The Office of the Auditor General also reported aging fleet of vehicles, and the committee recommends that 7 billion be provided to the procurement of field vehicles to replace the aging fleet. On Financial Intelligence Authority, implementation of strategic actions in preparation for 2028 mutual evaluation on Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, you know, we have been on this grey list and we came out of it. Now we have a problem. We need to do something. The committee was informed that the Financial Intelligence Authority plans to implement strategic actions in preparation for 2028 mutual evaluation on Uganda. This is critical to permit adequate preparation towards the realization of post-mutual evaluation results to deter FATF listing Uganda again in the bad list. The specific target actions relating to the regulatory and legal requirements, self-assessments, on-site activities, and face-to-face meetings will require Uganda shillings 4.5 billion. The committee recommends that FIA be provided the money worth 4.5 billion to undertake the necessary actions in preparation for the 2028 meeting in order to keep Uganda off the FATF grey list. Committee on Fiscal Infrastructure, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, vote 016, Ministry of Works and Transport.
And one thing about Deriv, yeah, when you just know what you're doing, right, trust me, you're good to go, right? Less manipulation, simple and straightforward. Apparently, I think we have like few female traders, like in where I'm coming from in Nigeria to be specific, right? So I want them to see this as a motivation, to see this and understand that it's very, very, very possible with Deriv, to be specific.
The deferment of periodic maintenance and expansion of backlogs. There is slackened implementation of ongoing rehabilitation projects. There is scaling back of planned rehabilitation and upgrading of some works. These are challenges. There is shift from preventive to reactive maintenance regimes. There is increased contractual and financial exposure. There is deterioration of road safety. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, the committee further recommends that reinstatement of the national roads budget by 301 billion towards national roads is needed in order to mitigate the resultant factors that are costlier in the long run as listed above. On road safety, the committee notes that the government has in place a comprehensive action plan geared towards road safety improvement in the country, although enforcement is lacking. Hence, the recommendation that government prioritize enforcement as outlined in its national road safety plan, as it will go a long way in reducing road fatalities and other relevant factors, apart from collecting more revenue from errant persons. Government should also gradually increase allocations towards road safety interventions. 3, government should also allocate 1.7 billion for recruitment of staff to under MVIS, motor vehicle inspection. The delayed upgrade of Isinjiro-Mutukula Road. The committee therefore recommends that there is that concern. The Isinjiro-Mutukula Road corridor is one among many other roads. 135 kilometers from Raka through Isinjiro district, Mutukula, and crossing into Tanzania. The committee therefore recommends that government fast tracks upgrading of Isinjiro, Kigarama, Kashumba, Kasheshe, Mutukula Road, Nakapiripita, Mudat Road, Namalu, Lache, and Blatuk Road as specified in the resource envelope which was got recently from the Islamic Development Bank. The committee also notes that Ministry of Finance and Islamic Development Bank signed a country engagement framework for Uganda for the period 2025 to 2026. Envelope of 800 million for the 3-year duration for this CEF. The major projects to be funded include the one I mentioned, that is upgrading of Nakapiripta Muda, Tanakamalu, Lakapel Road, and Isinjiro, Kigarama, Kashumba, Kasheshe, Tanzania border to Mutukula Road. Committee on Presidential Affairs. Vote 001, Office of the President, construction of constrained operations of the Uganda Printing and Publishing Corporation. The committee recommends that 30 billion be identified and be allocated to vote 001 to facilitate acquisition of the modern equipment so as to enable Uganda Printing and Publishing Corporation align with modern technological and production standards. Vote 002, State House. Inadequate budget provision for wage expenditure category. The committee recommends that 4.28 billion be allocated to vote 002, State House, to provide for the wage shortfall in the financial year 26-27. Support to the graduate of the skilling program. Colleagues and other members, Mr. Speaker, we know the skilling hubs across the country, but most of those people who go to the skilling hubs come without any support. So the committee recommends that 140 billion be allocated to the State House to facilitate the setup of one common user facility per zone for these trainees. Vote 107, Uganda AIDS Commission. Intervention to reduce HIV and new infections in Uganda. The committee recommends that Uganda shilling 6 billion is needed and be provided to vote 107 to facilitate scaling up of HIV communication campaign and research against HIV. Establishment of HIV and AIDS coordination zonal offices. The committee recommends that Uganda shilling 3 billion be provided to vote 107 to enable Uganda AIDS Commission establish the 6 additional regional offices so as to take preventive measures on HIV spread. Vote 159, External Security Organization. Coordination of external intelligence management. The committee recommends that 12 billion be provided to enable the external ESO efficiently and effectively maintain foreign diplomatic stations, foreign strategic areas of interest, and field stations. Construction of ESO headquarters. The committee recommends that 32.55 billion be provided to vote 159 to kickstart the construction of ESO headquarters. Vote 167 on science, technology, and innovation. The committee recommends that 10 billion earlier earmarked for sericulture interventions implemented by 3D be maintained for the same purpose for 26-27. Vote on defense and internal affairs. Vote 004, defense and internal affairs and veteran affairs. There is a shortfall in food staff. The committee recommends that the required 112.2 billion should be given priority in the.
Are you looking for a dream house? Or do you want to buy, sell, or rent property?
Border automation systems. The committee recommends that 1.02 billion be given to DCI, IC, in the financial 2026, aiming to boost efficiency and revenue at all our service points, border service points. Uganda Police Force, vote 144. Uganda Police Force wage bill. The committee recommends that allocating an additional 28.016 billion to the Uganda Police Force wage bill for financial 2027 to cover salaries for the 10,000 PPCs recruited last year. Vote 145, Uganda Prison Service. Uganda Prison Service needs the reallocation of prison headquarters. The committee recommends that Uganda Prison Service be provided 32.56 billion to construct a new prison facility at its land in Luzira. We need our building back. Vote 1617. Vote 135, Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratory. Operationalization of DGAL regional laboratories. The committee recommends an additional 1 billion to construct a regional forensic laboratory in Oima and operationalize the one forensic lab over the medium term. There is also a need for modern scientific equipment, which needs 1.8 billion for the maintenance of scientific equipment during the financial year 26-27. The Director of Government Analytical Laboratory also needs laboratory reagents, chemicals, and consumables worth 5.4 billion for the procurement of these reagents. Committee recommends that this money be provided. This director also needs money for staff training worth 540 million. The committee recommends the same. And also the laboratory needs 650 million for accreditation internationally. Let's go to the Ministry of Health, Committee on Health. Vote 014, Ministry of Health. Operationalization budget. A number of public health facilities were upgraded to new statuses, but there was no equivalent increment in their budgets. The committee therefore recommends that 20 billion be provided for the operational costs for 300 road and 14 boat ambulances, 300 ambulances and 14 boat ambulances that were given across the country. Equipment and maintenance costs. Inadequate funds for servicing and maintenance of medical equipment and other equipment in health facilities. As a result, hospitals and health centers often have idle and non-functional diagnostic, oxygen, and life-saving equipment due to lack of maintenance contracts, spare parts, utilities by medical engineers, and so on. So the committee recommends that 2.1 billion be provided for procurement and installation of ultrasound scan machines in 84 public health center force and at a cost of 25 million each. Human resources for health. This was Mr. Speaker and colleagues. Inadequate human resources for health at different levels due to inadequate wage, recruitment delays, and failure to attract some cadres, which affects service delivery. The committee recommends that this coming financial year, Uganda shillings 132.6 billion be provided for recruitment of at least 16,963 staff in the financial year 2026-27 in various public health facilities to increase the staffing levels to at least 45%. For operationalization of the organ transplant, funds are required to support the organ transplant program, pre-transplant, transplant, and post-transplant services in the country. The committee recommends that 8.598 billion be provided to operationalize the organ transplant activities, since we have now the facilities here, and another 7.4 billion for the organ donation and transplant council.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We have this report. It's our report. We are reading it. I think it is important for members to have time for debate. Because the report is available. And this is a wish list. Because from here, they are now going to issue the second budget core circular. And then after we get ministerial policy statements, which again will come back to the committee, and the Minister of Finance at that level will have captured maybe additional financing if they get the resource envelope from your recommendations. And then from there, they bring the budget estimates by 1st April. Though we requested the minister to do it earlier together with the tax bills, and then again we scrutinize, okay? So since we went through all this, I think we better open up for debate so that members can discuss their critical areas. But let me allow the chair to conclude on this, and we have a minority report, and then we debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a minute to sit down. I think I needed it. Committee on Tourism, Committee on Environment and Natural Resources.
Whenever I said conclude.
Oh.
Yes, conclude with debate, because we have a report.
Yes.
And the whole report will be captured on the handset.
Yeah.
For record purposes.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, in the debate across the different submissions from the different committees, this was what has been done. It's about service points. So if we were considering this budget framework paper, I think colleagues, we need to pay attention to kind of points that provide services to our people. That is especially water, electricity, roads, health facilities. If we can do something about health, education, and I think that we will have done something that our people sent us to do in this house. I conclude by saying that, Honorable Speaker and members, the committee recommends that this August House adopts these recommendations highlighted in this report and consequently approve the budget framework paper 2026-27 to 2030-31 with the amendments for a summary of additional funding requirements as annexed in Annex 1, 2, and 3. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I've been following up with the committee. Honorable Siaga and team have been working in overdrive, but also all committees, sectoral committees, because I know some worked on public holiday, you worked on Sunday. So I really want to appreciate you, honorable colleagues, for the concentration and the time you've put in to catch up with the requirements of the law. But we have a minority report, so Honorable Semuju, please, if you can also summarize it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mine is not very big.
It's minority. It's
Mr. Speaker, the budget framework paper and the main report have most of the issues. We have only disagreed on what to do with them. And I'll straight away. Compliance. Section 8.3 of the Public Finance Management Act states the minister shall for each financial year prepare a budget framework paper which shall be consistent with the National Development Plan and with the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. Consistency with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility for Fiscal Responsibility and Development Plan is a legal requirement that even this Parliament cannot waive. One of the fiscal rules in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is the reduction of public debt to below 50% of GDP in nominal terms by the year 2025. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, you have been presented with a 69 trillion proposed budget, which of course all of you know will keep rising up to the final day of appropriation. Revenue correction is projected at 40 trillion, and the rest of the money, 28 trillion, will be borrowed from domestic and external sources. So the proposal to borrow is captured on page 23 of the framework paper. The amount to be borrowed is nearly 40% of the budget. So if you approve the budget framework paper, which essentially is a draft budget, it means you have authorized the government to borrow the sums captured in the draft. Minister of Finance, the mover of this motion, is warning you that by approving the budget framework paper, you are actually authorizing them to breach the law. Their warning is captured on page 26 of the framework paper. This is what they are saying. For instance, the share of the public debt to GDP is projected to surpass the 50% target for the financial year 2025-26. And the ratio of domestic debt interest payment total revenue is also projected to exceed 12.5% benchmark. Additionally, the targets on fiscal deficit and revenue growth are also likely to be missed. The reasons these rules exist is to ensure the country's macroeconomic stability. This is like a hump in a road whose aim is to physically stop reckless drivers from overspeeding. The law wants to stop NRM government from reckless spending. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, you therefore cannot proceed with this framework paper unless the Public Finance Management Act and the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is amended, or both. And it is not only us, Parliament, who are required to adhere to the law. Section 5 of the PFMA says Cabinet shall, in making decisions with implications on public finances or in determining, formulating, and implementing government policies, as well as in performing any other functions conferred on it by this or any other act adhere to the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility and other requirements. Section 6 provides circumstances under which we may deviate from the objectives in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. They include a natural disaster, an unanticipated severe economic shock, or any other significant and unforeseen event that cannot be.
It's a new time and a new chance to win big. This back-to-school season, it really pays to pay with Airtel Money. Pay school fees with Airtel Money and stand a chance to win from
Act sets out areas the framework paper or the draft budget must address. One of these areas, the average and year-end gross domestic product figures. Sharing the right GDP figures with Parliament is a legal requirement. Just to refresh the mind of honorable members, GDP means the monetary value of goods and services produced in a year. It is these goods and services that we will tax to raise revenue to finance the budget. You must therefore have the right GDP figures at all times to determine how much borrowing are you going to authorize and the right revenue correction projection. In the framework paper, the GDP figure is not explicitly stated. The gross domestic product is stated in the budget framework paper on page 15 as 251 trillion 68. Even that's what the minister said. That increase from 202 trillion in the last year budget framework paper. In his written submission to the budget committee dated January 20th, the Minister of State for General Duties, the Honorable Musasi, states on page 2 that GDP is estimated to grow, just estimated to grow to 251 trillion. The GDP figure given by the Honorable Musasi is just a forecast. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics puts the GDP at 226 trillion as of last year. And when you calculate the debt to GDP ratio of 51 given on page 20 of the budget framework paper, it gives you 226 trillion as Uganda's GDP, which is 63 billion US dollar. It is therefore wrong for finance to give 251 trillion, which is a forecast, as the GDP figure. There is always a desire by the NRM leaders to exaggerate the country's growth, which is the reason they recalculate the GDP unnecessarily. Conflicting public debt figures. The Minister of Finance gives total public debt figure as 116 trillion, which is 32 billion US dollar on page 20. This finance says is an increase from 94.7 trillion, which is 26 billion, translating to a debt to GDP ratio of 51%. This debt to GDP figure is calculated using the UBOS 226 trillion, what they give in the budget framework paper, as the true GDP figures. Just for emphasis, the stock of public debt is 116 trillion and GDP is 226. Those are the figures that finance is using. However, the Bank of Uganda, in its December 2025 State of the Economy report on page 10, puts public debt at 124 trillion, translating into a 54.8 debt to GDP ratio. You can see the trick here. You lower the figure of public debt and exaggerate GDP to present a lower GDP to a lower debt to GDP ratio. Then you ask Parliament to authorize more borrowing on the pretext of a sustained public debt stock. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, public debt is plunging Uganda into a crisis. The NRM government plans to borrow over 18.5 trillion from the domestic market, commercial banks, to finance the budget. The 8.9 trillion will be new loans to finance the budget and 9.6 trillion to roll over maturing debt. The central bank is concerned with the domestic debt to private sector credit. By overborrowing from commercial banks, the NRM government is crowding out the private sector. The concern of Bank of Uganda is captured on page 10 of their December State of the Economy. If you look at the private credit now, I think it's about 21 trillion, and government is borrowing sometimes up to 19 trillion. So you are competing with the citizens that you want to empower. You remove all the money, they have nothing. Our borrowing from commercial banks serves the private sector, which is employing more than 85% of the population. Ratio of interest to revenue correction. One of the fiscal rules in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility is reduction of total domestic debt interest payment to revenue, excluding grants, to 12.5%. The government plans to spend 28.6 trillion on debt servicing next financial year, of which 12.7 trillion is interest payment. The interest payment for the domestic debt is 10.7 trillion, which is 26.7% of the projected 40 trillion revenue correction. The target is 12, but you are going to pay interest of 26. And this matter is a matter of law. The rule in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility is reduction of interest payment on domestic debt 12.5% of revenue. But the budget framework paper interest payment will instead raise to 26. I hope Parliament will resist this. The Minister of Finance also agrees that such an elevated debt service burden shrinks fiscal space, leaving fewer resources available for discretionary spending in high multiplier growth enhancing sectors. And the committee noted that.
Elevate your career with the London School of Business and Finance. We offer a global MBA with 5 specializations, a Master's in Finance and Investment, and a Master of Science Strategic Marketing.
To borrow from external sources 10 trillion to finance various projects. Certainly that will increase our debt stock as a country and will violate the rules we set ourselves out in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. The question is, have we utilized the numerous loans we have contracted to finance various projects for us to contract more? The answer is a big no. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance. They have been very generous with information. If you read the July 2025 report on the performance of externally funded projects, you will know why you have remained poor. You also know the dangers of employing old people in critical offices, knowing their biological inadequacies. When people grow old, every part of the body slows naturally. Even the thinking slows down. They begin to think in installments. Many of the projects for which we have borrowed gross sums of money are either behind schedule or have completely stagnated. And here we are being asked to recklessly approve further borrowing. I now turn to the Minister of Finance report on externally funded projects. The Minister of Finance has been monitoring performance of these projects and done some reports. The latest report samples 66 externally funded projects, as the table below illustrates. We have borrowed money to finance projects. Even in this budget, they are saying we should borrow another 10 trillion. But look, the table. The projects in agro-industrialization, 7 projects here, only 2 have been completed. 1 is on track, others behind schedule. Digital transformation, 2, 1 on track. Human capital development, 14 projects, only 1 completed, 1 on track, 12 are behind schedule. Integrated transport infrastructure and services, 12 projects for which we have borrowed money, only 2 completed, 1 on track, 18 behind schedule. I don't need to go, but the total below is that you have a total here of 66 projects sampled by finance. Only 6 are completed, 5 on track, 55 of these projects are behind schedule, including ones that you will see that have stagnated. And I'll give a list here. I'll be very brief because this is not my list. It is a list of Honorable Musasi. Kampala Jinja Expressway. We borrowed money to do this road. And I'll go to the last line. This is how finance has assessed this. The physical progress of the project is 0. Money borrowed, progress is 0. They are saying, let us borrow more. That's what is in the budget framework paper. Busega Mpigi Expressway. Construction is at 46%. This road was supposed to have been completed years ago. They are at 46%. Part of the reason you will see, they are saying they don't have counter funding. And then they are saying, let us borrow and begin more projects. That's why I said you even offend common sense. Entebbe Airport rehabilitation. This one, there is progress. But the point is, because of the delays, we are now required to pay to the contractor the total sum of 34.9 million US dollar because we delayed. So the contractor says, you delayed here and here, pay me money. Even this one, although progressing, it was never delivered on time. The Bukasa project port, this one hasn't started at all, still in the preliminary. Kampala flyover construction, finance says it has stagnated. Kampala City Roads rehabilitation, they are now revising it. The time elapsed, they are revising it. And you know each revision comes with money. Multinational Kapchorwa, Suyam, Kitare, and Eldoret bypass. This one has almost been completed, but after a delay. Change Johoi Mamasindi Chigumba Road. The project have not been completed, more money is needed. National Lake Victoria Maritime Communication Transport Project. Here, overall progress is from 37 to by the end of April. So all these projects, they have delayed, no counter funding, they are contracting more. Ruwero Butarang Road, work is at 67%. A road that they started nearly 10 years ago, they haven't completed. Short stretch. Moyo, Yumbe, Koboko Road project. And you keep asking, why does the president repeat these roads in every budget? The progress, as you have seen, on some projects, it is zero. So every year he repeats, you think government is working. Namagunga Budadiri Narugugu Road project. The progress of the project was at 4% against a planned 4.3. This one is still in infancy. The Northeastern Road Corridor Asset Management Project. Maybe I don't have to read each and every project that is here. But you need members to interact with these projects. And I am saying in this minority report, as I try to conclude, that we borrow money to do projects for which we pay you have undertaken. You will see there is one here for private sector. I think I will stop with that one. Which is project 22. Investment for industrial transformation and employment project. The investment for industrial transformation and employment is a collaborative program between the government of Uganda, represented by Ministry of Finance, Bank of Uganda, private sector, and the development partners. So this project, we borrowed 218 million US dollar. The idea was that the project starts in 2022 and ends in 2027. However, due to delays in approval, the project effectiveness date was 13th November 2023 and the closing date is 31st January 2027. The project stagnated, targeted to benefit 140,000 medium, small, and macro enterprises and 120,000 refugees. Of these, at least 40,000 expected to be women-led macro enterprises. The larger sized firms also benefit from the intervention. The overall project performance was poor at approximately 0.3% and significantly behind schedule. Even where you want to borrow money to help companies that are employing people, you don't utilize it. And then you come to Parliament, you say, can we borrow more? I don't know, maybe the Honorable Musasi's enjoys the word borrowing. So if he ever brings a report that doesn't have the word borrowing, you will feel very bad. You have electricity access scale-up project, same problem. Upgrade of health centers, 2 to 3, same problem, behind schedule. Uganda Secondary Education Expansion Project, money borrowed, project not making progress. I am saying in this report, don't allow them to borrow until they have completed and made progress on these ones, or else you'll just be enlarging the list. You borrow money, you pay. When you are looking at the report on loans, you will discover we pay commitment fees on money unutilized, which money we need to do other things that are being listed
Honorable
here.
Semenyo, can you read the report?
If I read the report, I will delay because now I am concluding. If you want me, Mr. Speaker, I can read the report.
If you had read
But
it,
I will delay. I am concluding now. I am on page 15, which is the last one, on rate of employment and unemployment. The committee notes that actually this information is not given, yet is a requirement by the law. One of the economic variables, the budget framework paper is supposed to address the rate of employment and unemployment in the country. This is what Schedule 3 of the law demands. Without providing any basis, the Minister of Finance states on page 16 of the framework paper that one of the macroeconomic objectives of government next financial year is to increase the stock of new jobs to about 800,000. The figure of how many jobs they created this or last year is not given, just throwing figures around. The target of government in the NDP3 was to create 512,000 jobs annually. Like other NRM targets, this was never made. Maybe they have only made the one of staying in power. National Planning Authority in Empowerment and Skills Status Report 2022 reported that the yearly net job creation averaged 320,000 against a target of 500,000. This is too little considering that every year 700,000 Ugandans join the job market. If you look at the figures of PAYE and NSSF, there are just about 2.5 million formal jobs, which keep fluctuating. The public sector, as you are aware, employs just 400,000, and the rest are in private sector. National Planning Authority estimates 15.8 million to be of the working age, and 13 million of these are in the private sector. The UBO census report puts the figure of the working age going by the labor policy of 2011 to about 24 million. The planning also says the quality of jobs in Uganda remains low, with 78% of the labor force engaged in vulnerable employment characterized with low pay and job insecurity. Uganda, according to NPA and World Bank reports, has the lowest business survival rate in the world. Only 1 out of the 4 farms remain operational after the first years of existence. This is what budget must address, but it is being mentioned in passing in the usual NRM business as usual casual manner. Younger people need jobs, and you cannot respond to this demand by violence and prison. Hundreds demanding equality life have been brutalized and imprisoned during this electoral period. Mr. Speaker, you know Sam Mugumya. We've been told he is being held by the army, very sick. Maybe you're not even sure if he has not died. So this is the response of the NRM. When people are demanding for work, prison. The NPA notes that while official figures show that unemployment reduced from 11 to 9 and 8.8%, in absolute terms, underemployment and unemployment persists as a result of many Ugandans engaged in vulnerable employment, which is often characterized by low productivity. Cabinet Development and Growth Review says Uganda is failing to harness 61% of its human capital for socio-economic development. Mr. Speaker, I am only emphasizing information which the Honorable Mr. Asizi has given, and I thank him, which the committee has given, but they are shying away. They are saying, you, regardless of the non-compliance, please approve the framework paper. These are the dangers that you face. I ask you, honorable members, to reject this framework paper. They go and they do it. First, to comply with the law, and second, to comply with common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Shadow Minister. I'll request the Minister of Finance if he has any responses which would want to make, which can guide us during debate.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the Majority Committee of the Budget and the other sectoral committees for the deeper analysis they have done on our budget framework paper. I also wish to thank Honorable Semuju, the Shadow Minister of Finance, for strengthening and emphasizing some of the points which we made in our report. Mr. Speaker, it is true that our public debt is projected to go beyond 50% minimum target. But Mr. Speaker, this is not the problem. Why? Because our numbers continue to show that our debt obligations are manageable now and also in the long term. We have not failed to pay on any commitment as and when it falls due. Mr. Speaker, on debt, the focus of all of us should be, what are we borrowing for? If we are borrowing to invest in the economy, there is no problem. If we are borrowing to grow our GDP, there is no problem. It becomes a problem when we are borrowing for luxury. That is the borrowing we should all be concerned about. Mr. Speaker, on the GDP numbers, our source of information is UBOS. And what UBOS gives us, Mr. Speaker, we should trust the authorities we put in charge of some of these numbers. So if we come here and begin questioning the numbers UBOS has given us on GDP, then which other authority would we rely on? Mr. Speaker, also on the debt numbers, our difference with BOU is mainly on the timing. Whereas for us, we report as per June, sometimes BOU captures as per December. And this creates the small variance you see. Like now you are seeing 116 by us and 124 by BOU. If we go into June of 2026, you will see our number capturing what BOU has captured. Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is our guiding tool, together with the NDP and also the manifesto. However, Mr. Speaker, consistency does not mean exact. Consistency means whatever you are doing should be close to the what? To the guiding principles. Mr. Speaker, when you deviate from the Charter this year, as long as you commit that within a certain period, you will come back to the Charter, this explanation is acceptable. Therefore, my friend, Honorable Semuju, I wish to invite you to look at these things squarely. Do a deep analysis of some of these things. But also I invite you to, let's always look at these matters squarely. And maybe lastly, on the projects. Yes, We have a number of projects which we have borrowed for and have not taken off. But where have we come from? In 2012, the situation which was there, some of you, my colleagues who have been here with us, you know that we would borrow for a project even when there is no appraisal or feasibility study being done. You find the Parliament approving funding for a project where no process has taken place. But now, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that for a project now to come here, it must pass through our PIMS process. And we are now saying that where there is no money for counterpart funding, no, I am not accusing Parliament, I am accusing both of us. Yes, I'm not accusing Parliament. I'm saying this previously used to happen. But for now, what have we done? We have subjected serious approvals, rigorous approvals, PIMS process, and also for the project to succeed, we must confirm that there is counterpart funding in the budget. And this is why you see, I'm sure, colleagues, most of our stakeholders come to lobby you. Why is our project not moving? Why is this, that? There is now serious restrictions. And going forward, Mr. Speaker, I commit that this weakness of delayed projects will not continue happening. I want to use this example of Busegampigi. Busegampigi, this is one of the projects I found in the ministry when the borrowing had been done. You borrow, you approve a request for borrowing, no feasibility study has been done, nobody has even gone on ground to assess where the road is going to pass. And by the time we go on ground, we find that the cost which was initially borrowed is not even half of what is required. You ideally need another amount amounting to 100% or so.
Maybe, Honorable Minister, just clarification, because I was part of the National Economy Committee when we approved that loan. We went on ground. We saw, okay, where the road was going to pass. The ministry, I remember the committee was chaired by the Honorable Saida Bumba. It was really, I want to absolve myself if your government didn't do your part. And I want to tell you where the problem came from. And you told us as government that we shall be having around 14 kilometers of swamp. And we are going to build above those swamp, above the swamp. Because we were concerned on environmental degradation. I think I had Honorable Alex Biarugawa, Honorable Rico, Honorable Cooper, we were all members of that committee. And we asked very many difficult questions. They presented the feasibility study. Engineer Patrick Mureme presented the full design. And we spent days and we had a robust debate here because Honorable Katuntu, I remember when he was talking about the cost of the road. Now the problem came when they reached in UNRA and changed the design. They changed the design and now decided to backfill the swamp. Okay? They changed the design to backfill the swamp. They had told us in the design, they had included in the design connecting to the Entebbe Expressway and the bypass. In the design they gave the contractor, there was no connection to the expressway. So what is very important, Honourable Minister, why I brought out this, it is very important for you to inform government agencies that what you bring to Parliament and is approved should be what is implemented. Otherwise, the project ended up costing more than double. Yeah, so I just wanted that to go on record. Otherwise, I couldn't sit on a committee that would approve a loan where there was no feasibility study.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for that institutional memory. However, we have struggled to correct those past mistakes. No, there is nothing. The speaker was enhancing my submission. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that all these mistakes have been corrected, and now we are.
Are you looking for a dream house? Or do you want to buy, sell, or rent property? Well, we can help. We can help you save money and time. All you have to do is visit.
I have tried to honor the unemployment rate. Yes, this is a big concern to all of us as Ugandans and representatives of the people. But the question of focus should be, where are these jobs? The jobs are mainly in the ATMs. And when you look at the priorities I highlighted in my motion, I am requesting Parliament to appropriate money in these key areas which bring jobs to the people of Uganda. I think this is what we should really be concerned most about. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. So, honorable colleagues, we are going to have a debate on the report because the reports are together. We have seen the issues raised by the Honorable Semuju, consistency with the requirements of the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. I think we are going to get a new charter soon, isn't it? Just 3 months after. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that we are preparing a new charter. It will be coming soon, before this House is prorogued.
I think 3 months after the election. Yeah, as per the law. So we're going to ensure that's followed. And it's very, Honourable Minister, I think on the issue of deviation, we need to go to agree. Really, maybe you can always engage with colleagues, even off this platform, okay, on these matters. For example, when you look at Section 7 of the PFM on deviation, we had COVID, which hit you hard, one of the issues which would have been a reason for you revising the charter. And I think the moment we keep interacting, even off here, some of the deviations, because some of the pressures you're having were due to natural disasters and unforeseen circumstances. And then we come here, we debate, and we see how best we can move. But on the issue of loans, honorable colleagues, I think, Honourable Minister, we shall need more clarity and more commitments going forward. In the budget, we shall maybe see in the Ministerial Policy Statement and in the budget estimate, the commitments you make on counterpart funding. Because the Committee on National Economy always gets the commitment in writing, but the money is not in. So I think when we are scrutinizing the budget, Honourable Chair for Budget, we shall need to focus much on counterpart funding, but also completion of the loans, of the projects. And maybe, Honourable Minister, the issue of acquisition of land before taking off of these projects. Because it's a very big concern. Someone is given, they commence the project when land is not available. Someone says, I mobilize it, I need $30 million. My equipment was idle. I think you need to be much, much stronger on that. Otherwise, honorable colleagues, I want to guide our debate because the budget framework paper is not about the road that is not in your constituency. It's not about the classroom that has not yet been finished. No, it's linking national development objectives to the budget, to the proposed expenditure in a national framework manner, not just your constituency. And the moment we take that route, it will be much, much easier. And maybe Chairman Budget, I don't know how we shall narrow down, because everything that was captured when I was reading through the report, you'll find we have nearly over 200 trillion of unfunded priorities, over 200 trillion. So we are throwing what the agencies had thrown at the ministry, and the ministry said my resource envelope is 69 trillion, and we are again throwing it back on. So I think we need, you need to guide the committee that we reduce at this level of BFP. We don't capture whatever they brought as unfunded. Chairman Budget, you wanted to comment on that? The Chairman is Yagi. And then we continue with the debate. And Mayor, we welcome you, Road Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Congratulations, Honorable Korik. And we shall support you from here. Shall support you to make our city work. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Right Honorable and colleagues, we only have these issues because of the way we do the budget. And I would like to ask to agree with our colleagues, the sect MDS, without costed worker plans. I would like to agree that there is a lot of money redundant within the budgets, which cannot be justified. But now we need to drill down to the last shilling by all these MDS providing costed work plans. You will find money being abandoned. I thank you.
Chairman, Budget Committee, can I guide that you hold a meeting as the chairman of the Budget Committee with the Minister of Finance and his team? He will determine who to come with, and chairpersons of committees to agree on how you're going to process this budget from MPSs, from Ministry of Policy Statement, so that we make your work easy. Would it help?
Yes, most obliged.
Yeah, so arrange and coordinate with all chairpersons. Since they are members of your committee, you have an in-house meeting. Yes, Honorable Taylor.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, on that matter, there is an unsettled debate which probably could guide this House. We have had issues on what amounts to budgeting and appropriation. At every time on the request of costed work plans, the response from finance, usually the PSST, is that we are going into budgeting and not appropriation. So we have not settled that discussion between the technical team of Ministry of Finance and this institution. That is why in the last budgeting cycle we had issues which led to the challenges we had on the processing of the budget. It's my humble prayer that we have that matter settled, appropriation budgeting vis-a-vis the responsibility of the House. I thank you.
No, but where is the problem? Because appropriation is what we do on the table here on the final day. Because appropriation is the law. Okay? There we are passing the appropriation bill. Okay? Which has very clear figures that would say go here, go here, go here. But now the process to reach on those final figures that would go into the appropriation bill that would consider here on the table is what is very, very critical. So, Honourable Minister, what Honourable Taylor is raising, isn't it an issue which you can guide on, you can guide your technical people to reconcile with our committee?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know what Honourable Taylor is trying to drive at, but as far as we are concerned, we have no problem in this process. Us at Finance, it's a consultative process between Parliament and the Ministry of Finance. And we have always agreed by consensus on these issues. That's why even you see in the House, unlike in the previous, I remember in the 9th Parliament, there are times when we would have a lot of back and forth, even the extent of voting on the budget. But here, we always harmonize and come here when we have really harmonized. So, Mr. Speaker, me, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what the chair of budget and the members think, but from our side as finance, we really appreciate the working relationship on the budget with Parliament, both from the leadership and the committee members and all committees of the House, because we always consult each other in these processes. Thank you.
So, Honourable Minister, colleagues, issues to do with the process and all that, let them be handled in that meeting between leadership of the budget committee with the leadership of sector committees, okay, and Minister of Finance, so that you go in-house, you see where there are challenges, you harmonize, and you come up with a budget and process that is acceptable to all of us, okay? Thank you. Colleagues, the debate. Yes, Isaac, Enos, Dr. Boka. Oh, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rinda, Honorable Net, Honorable Pachuto, Honorable Chamonges, Honorable Nachimwero. 3 minutes each.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank the Chair Budget Committee for the presentation of this initial budget paper. Right Honorable Speaker, I do acknowledge and appreciate the Ministry of Finance. Of course, we can see he has presented the budget, the National Budget Framework paper, that is less about 2.9 trillion to the 2025-2026 budget of 72 trillion. That means there
Goranga, 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 Haribo.
national developments, indeed. It is a driver in terms of health and in terms of national development. And what we have done in this parliament is that in the beginning, we still had over 20,000 villages not connected to safe water. And it is sad that even at this point, there is not much emphasis being done in terms of providing safe water to most of our communities, despite of water being one of the major crucial drivers in terms of health and in terms of also making sure that we have safe water for our areas. Most of our villages are still not connected. So I hope this is a matter that can be taken up very seriously in the next budget cycle. It's a bit saddening that the money for the Ministry of Works in terms of maintenance, their budget has been reduced by about 12%. This is a bit sad because one, we know very well what is happening in most of our roads. The condition of our roads needs a lot of money, and if right now we are starting to see reduction in the budget which is supposed to be used for maintaining our roads, this is something we need to actually look at very clearly. Madam Speaker, I also think that it is crucial for the entities, especially like Ministry of Works, that the money which comes for maintenance should at least be increased. We are focusing on new roads, but forgetting the already existing roads. So the 3 steps we move forward, we come back again backwards. So I think we'll try and make sure we have enough money in terms of maintenance of our roads. In terms of electricity, that's another key development in the National Development Program. And like the Chair Budget informed us, the issue of rural electrification. That is something which has always come up every year in regarding the money. Ever since we closed the rural electrification company, things have stopped going right. in our country, in our rural settings. I hope something comes out clearly from the ministry and from the Ministry of Finance, what plans they have in making sure that our sub-counties in the villages that are not yet connected to electricity can be connected to electricity. Because in order to improve PDM as a national development program, we need access to electricity in our rural areas so that we have enough small-scale factories coming in. Right over speak also, I noticed that in the education, in the Ministry of Education's vote, the money for enhancing the salary of arts teachers.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank the team, the Budget Committee, but specifically I would say I support the motion that we passed the budget framework paper, but Right Honourable Speaker, I would like a few clarifications from the Minister. On page 6, the committee captures the allocative efficiency of the budget framework paper. The policy preamble is very beautiful. It smartly addresses our policy direction and all that. But when it comes to allocation, it does not reflect the policy direction. For example, I'm seeing that they have preliminarily allocated 84 billion to UDB from 414 billion to 84. I'm seeking clarification from the Honourable Minister. What could be the reason to move from 414 to 84 billion? Number two, Right Honourable Speaker, we talk about the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. It was capturing, it does not have a transitional period. The Public Finance Management Act lacks the transitional period, because when you check, now we are going to pass the budget without the charter. The charter is going to come after the budget. Now, my question again to the Minister, I'm seeking clarification, because some time ago we had asked for amendment of the Act. Possibly we would have amended the Act to capture that transitional period. When do you plan to bring an amendment to the PFMA so that we deal with most of the loopholes there? Number two, Mr. Speaker, on page 18, they are talking about moving the poverty rates moving from 38 to 33%, and that comes from the PDM intervention. Through you, Mr. Speaker, again, when does the Minister intend to bring us a review of the...
Were these 3 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm seeking, again, clarification from the Minister on when we intend to have the review of the PDM to understand whether it's actually effective or not, because we are adding in more money, but we've not had any serious report or discussion on the performance of this program. Number three, Mr. Speaker, again, the last question to the Minister would be on, actually this should be to the Prime Minister, because on page 29 they're talking about project execution being affected by land acquisition and all that. Some time ago we mentioned having an amendment to the Land Act so that we can help government to deal with project execution, mostly for areas where people refuse to give way to.
Elevate your career with the London School of Business and Finance.
For the record, we have a charter. No. Just a charter is 5 years, and when you go to section 5 of the PFMA, the minister shall not less than 3 months after the first sitting of the parliament after general election. So meaning we are still in this current charter. Okay? Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
we cannot have
the same act talks about the charter taking 5 years, being renewed every 5 years.
Yes.
But when you look at the 5 years, it started with the budget of 2021, 2022. So when you do the calculation, it actually ended with the last budget. The budget we are dealing with of 26-27 will come into effect before the charter. That particular charter
is your mathematics. I didn't perform well in mathematics, but is yours really? Honorable, we have a charter, and that's why it's designed that way. So you have discounted 1 year if you do 5 years, okay? Yes, we have a charter, and we expect the minister 3 months after the first sitting of parliament to bring a draft charter which we must process so that it can guide the next budgeting cycle. Honorable Kadidi,
Yeah.
then Honorable Nachimwero, then I come back to Honorable Siraj.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to support the motion for approval of the budget framework paper. I have three observations. Observation number one is related to the performance of externally financed projects. Whereas on the one hand, we blame ourselves, the ministries, departments, agencies, and the parliament. On the other hand, there are certain practices within the donor conditionalities that constrain us. A case in point is the World Bank funded projects. And an example is the Uganda Electricity Scale-Up project that was supposed to extend power to a number of communities that have not been connected. A case in point is Obongi constituency, where the project started 2-3 years ago, and a resettlement action plan has to be approved by the bank. And the ministry is waiting for that approval from the bank, which to me is micromanagement. As government, we need to sit down with our partners to review some of those micromanagement conditions. Two, external financing to the humanitarian community has grossly reduced, especially in refugees hosting districts. This has resulted in laying off of many Ugandans in the social service delivery sector. Our schools are understaffed, health facilities are understaffed because UNHCR and OPM and the many international and national organizations have laid down staff. Would like to see in the budget framework paper, the ministerial policy statement, and the ultimate allocation of resources for wage to be provided to recruit the staff that have been laid off and made redundant. Last but not least, Mr. Speaker, sir, while the president was traversing the country, he made a lot of pledges. And a case in point is the promise of a hospital for Obongi district. These are social contracts that should be considered in the annual work plan and budget, in the ministerial policy statements, and in the budget framework papers that we look forward to. I thank you.
Honorable Nachimwero.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, we would like to get an explanation on the targets that we set ourselves to achieve, especially in the charter, versus the convenience at the moment. Because if we divert from what we set ourselves to do, then it disturbs our thoughts. And in that line, Right Honorable Speaker, we came up with the National Development Plan 4, and it stipulated a number of targets. But you find that the submissions of most ministerial statements do not recognize these targets. And now we wonder what directs our concentration and submission and allocation of resources. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue of compensation is a serious one to derailing projects. I have identified that we need some special investigations on people who own land prior to project activities, especially in swamps. You find that nobody's supposed to have a title in swamps, but the moment a project is going to take place, ownership prevails, new titles, very recent new titles. I wonder why these are considered.
It's a new term and a new chance to win big. This back-to-school season, it really pays to pay with Airtel Money. Pay school fees with Airtel Money and stand a chance to win from a massive 120 million Ugandan shilling cash gift.
the income from what they produce is, people are not certain. And this is what makes our people very poor. We stay here claiming that the GDP has improved, we are performing well, but the actual pockets of our people are empty, and people are crying in absolute poverty. Why aren't these documents and observations not tally with the pockets of our people? We need to explain this, and it needs to come out very well in our submissions. But based on the recently concluded campaigns, you can see that there was a lot of explanation on whether the government is for the people or not, based on the service deliveries.
Thank you, Honorable Siraj. Then Honorable Rinda, then Honorable Net.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, the budget framework emphasized on the issue of employment opportunity. And it also emphasized on the issue of agro-industry. Right Honorable Speaker, we talked about how our youth have gone to Middle East in order to work there. And these youths could easily be absorbed in the industries that are constructed here in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, there are regions in Uganda where industries have not been built, yet people have given lands for the construction of these industries. Like in West Nile, you will find that people have given lands for industrial parks, and these lands have stayed there for long, unutilized. Right Honorable Speaker, since the budget framework has talked about the issue of agro-industrialization, I will request that some things will be done in order to see that industries will be put on those places where industrial parks are given, so that our youths are employed in those areas. That could be the point where we could avail employment opportunities to our youths. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Rinda, then Honorable Net, then Honorable Pachuto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to seek clarification from the Minister of Finance, more especially on conditions that have been set and they have affected project implementation. A case in point is ULAN project, where we approved a loan last year to rehabilitate traditional schools. There's a condition that has been put that these traditional schools must have titles. These schools have been in existence for more than 100 years. And now the project cannot take on because the traditional schools sit on titles of the church land. So it is a very big problem, and now we are almost half year, and these schools may not benefit. So we'd like to get clarification and we see what can we do. Otherwise, these conditions will continue affecting budget performance. Then secondly is on the issue of stalled projects. There are bridges that have been constructed, they are not completed. We have roads that have been on construction for the last 7 years, they have never been completed. Please, can we give these projects priority so that we complete these works? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Net Mugisha and Honorable Pachuto.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity in approval of the budget framework paper. However, Mr. Speaker, permit me to raise an issue of abandoned electricity poles that were put up by REA 10 years ago. Right Honorable Speaker, last year around this time, we are here. And as 11th Parliament, we unanimously agreed that we prioritize connecting the electricity poles to the grid across the country. Right Honorable Speaker, up to now, nothing has been done. And we are not being brought up to speed. Mr. Speaker, during my campaign trail, the question of electricity was very pertinent by voters. And we kept on telling them that money is in the budget. They are going to connect these poles to the grid. However, I'm surprised that the budget framework paper we are about to approve, it is nowhere to be seen. And again, the financial year is coming to the end. We need the Ministry of Energy to bring us up to speed and tell us the progress. Mr. Speaker. Bad as that. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Pachuto. Then Honorable Rusakero. Then Dr. Pio. Colleagues, I finished this side. I finished this side. I'm now this side.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to congratulate you and all other members here who participated in the recent elections. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to commend the Committee of Budget for the good report, as well as the minority report. Right Honorable Speaker, in a special way, allow me to commend the managers of this country, especially those in charge of the economy, whereby in the BFP, it has been reported that our balance, there's a positive balance of payment arising from the great support that government has given, support and attention paid to the coffee growing and gold. I also want to commend the Committee of Budget for recommending that there has to be a budget enhancement for the fishing sector to about 48 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, I think that apart from coffee and gold, our next economic activity that can really even make our BOP much better is the fishing industry. I know that the Budget Committee has recommended 48 billion, but for me, I think having come from the fishing communities, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to persuade the House and the Minister of Finance to even increase the amount to about 3 times what the Budget Committee has reported, because the fishing communities have gone through a hell of things in the last 5 years, and they are all waiting, looking forward to this budget for the next financial year to salvage them from where they have been. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to comment on the budget, on the Budget Committee's report, where it is stated that the BFP is not consistent with the NDP4. To me, this implies that the planning for this country is not compatible with the strategic goals of this country, Mr. Speaker. I therefore want to, and this could be largely due to insufficient allocation to the NPA. For that reason, Right Honorable Speaker, I would recommend that the ministry reconsiders strengthening NPA further so that our budgeting and planning are in tandem. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, on the issue of wage bills, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to support that.
Thank you. I had forgotten Honorable Chemonges was supposed to be the next one. Then I come to Honorable Rusakero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I want to support the BFP, however, with some recommendations or seeking some clarifications on when you listen to the presentation, you feel that we are really in a right road. But with the experience for the 4 years I've been here, Honorable Minister, you know, I've read it and I've understood it, but we need some clarifications on major education. For example, coding of primary schools. Because we have very many parishes that do not have schools, primary schools. Very many of them. Then on issues of water, you find we have districts with the town councils. Personally, I have our district of Queen has 3 town councils. These are town councils without water. No water. They should actually be closed. Then we have issues of power. It's a very serious issue. We have invested money even in these industrial skilling centers. We are now thinking about many other ways of creating jobs, like we talk about the industrialization. But issue of power, even in the seed schools we have invested money. You find we have computers, we have what, but we don't have power. We have health centers, we don't have power. For the last 3 years we have been talking about power. We have gotten money from here, but members, there is nothing like power in our areas. So I want to say, this is where I almost agree with the Honorable Semuju. For example, when we talked about even roads, we have our road, the Kapchorwa, Swam. They are saying the road is of the town council roads. They have only done 1 kilometer. They have left 2 kilometers. The road, and they are saying the road is complete. So everybody is worried. They even prepared the roads that were to be tarmacked. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I would be very happy, and I think even to members, if such things are clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Honorable
you.
Mr. Akero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank the committee and also the minority report. Mr. Speaker, I want to start from what my colleague stated about the seed schools. I'd actually noted it here. For some time, we have been talking about this. And if we're talking about employment, just like you said, Honorable Minister, this is one area that would find many of our people employed. Unfortunately, not seed school are the primary schools which were coded, but up to now they are not operational. And then two, I want to applaud you. The policy on SAGE was amended and the age was reduced to 65. That's really a plus, and my people are very happy about this. And I'm also happy that it has been accompanied with I think, some funding. I hope it goes up to the end. And then, Mr. Speaker, our policy on health centers, very clear. Unfortunately, this is not being implemented. Many of our sub-counties in Uganda still don't have health center 3s. This should be also implemented. Finally, Mr. Speaker, if we are talking about agro-industrialization, we cannot leave out the issue of our roads. I remember there's a time we sat here as Parliament the whole day and we were talking about the state of our roads. If I remember very vividly, we talked about the machines which are missing, and it is my wish